Before we begin, 2 messages. When my company needed to develop a key mobile product, one that I was counting on as a new source of revenue, I knew exactly who to turn to. Macadamian. They delivered on time with incredible attention to detail, and I was able to get product into customers' hands faster than I ever thought possible. I've personally known them for 10 years, and they do make great products even better. Check them out at www.macadamian.com. Here's a riddle. How do you build native cross-platform mobile applications quickly without having to rewrite code and hire consultants at a huge cost? Titanium from Appcelerator. Called the easy button for mobile application development, it allows you to focus more on what's important, getting product out the door. Join the more than 1.5 million active developers who have created over 13,000 apps at www.appcelerator.com. Hello everybody, this is Untethered.tv. My name is Rob Woodbridge, and of course this is where we interview and have great casual conversations with mobile rock stars. And once again, from Windy City, not Chicago, today it's Ottawa, my hometown, Ottawa, Canada. I'm really pleased to actually bring somebody from my city in here who's doing something that I think is very important that you should know about. We're talking with Robert Smith, who is the founder of a company called Green Melon. And Green Melon is associated with and actually developing an app called NightAlly. And we're going to be talking about those. Green Melon is a creative group that helps you redo your brand, understand brand, or create brands for organizations. Big, small, doesn't matter, or groups. And NightAlly is something that he's calling a personal safety app, which is we're going to talk about how he came up with that term, the branding of this application, and also a little bit about Green Melon. Robert, thank you for coming on to Untether and telling your story.
Well, thanks very much, Rob, for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Basically, the idea of NightAlly came out of my own personal use of the iPhone as a device that I have always with me constantly, and I notice that everybody else does. And also the phrase smartphone that's being used to describe the iPhone and Blackberries and that. And a lot of the PR around the smartphones and that, as far as apps go, revolved around games and a lot of the sort of silly things that you can do with your phone, which are obviously fun. I mean, I've got a ton of them on my phone for sure. But it just occurred to me that we could use a lot of what's inside that phone to benefit people as individuals. And knowing in a certain area that I live in, there have been a number of recent issues with teenagers and specifically teenage girls and that with attempted abductions and just safety issues after hours, late at night when the stores close and that. And it occurred to me that in any given instance, when we leave the home, we always leave with our keys and our phone. If we do have personal safety devices, it's very easy to forget them. If a girl changes purses, for example, things like that, or you change coats, change weather. So I thought that it would be a great opportunity to use or take advantage of some of the technology that's embedded in the phones to your advantage as far as a safety element. So I created what we call NightAlly. Now, not being a technology-based company, we had a very different approach to creating an app, and that was creating a personality, creating a look and feel, because it was important for me to promote this because it really is, I think, an important app for people to empower them to be out and not be afraid. So, again, not being a technology-based company, we took the approach of creating a brand personality. The name was important, the look, the usability, and all of these elements. And then we partnered up with a coder that was able to then take our vision of what we wanted this to be and made it technically feasible.
And actually, took your vision and made it into an app. That's
right.
Your history, I mean, your professional history with Green Melon, for example, as a branding company, it's always been about the brand, hasn't it? Brand first, brand first, brand first, sort of go into the basics of like the understanding of brands that you guys have developed over your professional career. I mean, why is brand so important?
Well, branding is always been there, but what we've experienced recently is a real renaissance in branding, and it's evident in companies like Apple, for example, and Nike and Starbucks. It was interesting to me, 3 years ago, there was a huge news article about the fact that IKEA had changed the font in their catalog. And it was this incredible debate that went on for weeks. And I thought, wow, this is really interesting that we've entered a time where things like that have become part of the public vernacular. And we're seeing more and more these people are their personalities and who they are is somewhat defined by brands, you know. And it was the best example of that is Mac PC ads that became very popular. Hi, I'm a Mac, I'm a PC. The personification of brand and the whole Tiger Woods being very tightly associated with Nike, things like that. So people really need to see themselves in brands, and so that's become a very important part of what I do, is helping corporations with products or services or groups to really define who they are to the public. We've entered a time period now as well that has become very busy. We have news and information thrown at us at incredible rates that's unprecedented. And so it becomes harder and harder for corporations and groups to really break through that and be noticed. So we are that company. That's what we do a lot for all of our clients, and it's becoming busier and busier.
It's funny because there seemed to be an erosion of brands over the last number of years. Certainly the web world, the promise of the web world was that the big brands are dead and it's the small upstart scrappy guys, and now all of a sudden Amazon is a huge brand unto itself, isn't it?
Yes.
10 years ago, it was the upstart.
Yes. Well, an example is the Social Network, the movie.
Yeah.
We now have a movie about a brand.
It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And there's scenes in movies. You look at Mad Men, how popular that series is, and it's all about advertising and the whole personality behind brands and the development of that. And it's changing. It's becoming, again, more important. The medium has changed, but the need and the necessity for messaging and clarity is becoming more and more popular and more important. And
so this translates into the mobile space because it is so crowded, man. Like it is like, so what? You've got an app, right? And unless it's called Angry Birds or Doodle Jump or something, who cares? And so the biggest challenge that people are having right now is awareness. And a lot of people are relying exclusively on the application stores, the app stores, like Apple's App Store or App World or Android's Marketplace, as a sole sales, marketing, and distribution channel. And putting it up there, building it, and they will come is no longer a reality for the majority of these guys. So branding plays a very important role. Are you seeing people now taking branding into consideration when they're building out product?
Absolutely, and that's becoming very important. And that's part of what my core company, Green Melon, does is just that, because companies really need to focus on what they're best at, and that is their offering, whether it be a product or a service. And what we do is we come in as the outsider, without any prejudice, without any knowledge, and we go in and say, look, you're too close to it, and you're missing this point and this point and this point. And that's really the advantage that we bring to the table, that sort of clarity, no jargon, no assumptions. It's a straight out and make it very clear and concise, because we are at the end the consumer. So we want to be able, and that's my process, is that I'll spend the first little while of engagement with a client, understanding what they do. And sometimes it's hard when, it's a winery or a restaurant to actually have to consume the products.
That's rough, isn't it?
It's a tough job, it really is. That's why there's not many of us out there. But, you really do need to do that. We really need to get into and understand the product, and then be able to then articulate it and communicate it, and decide which medium is best. And the app industry is such a new wild west. There hasn't been. It's happened so quickly. There hasn't been the ability to create a definitive direction or map. So it's really finding your way through it. And what we see is, again, if you look at your iPhone or your BlackBerry and you flip through the apps, look at the various button designs. Some are very complicated, some are very simple, and that's what's going to really define who wins and who loses. I saw a quote today that by 2015 there'll be 29 billion downloads of apps, which is crazy.
It's so big, and the idea of just putting something out there without any thought to brand is pretty crazy. And am I right in saying that there are two distinct camps right now when it comes to branding, in the mobile world? One of them is the existing brand, right? Like a big brand, Apple's not a good example, but like Amazon, or like a Target or something like that, or in Canada, Canadian Tire.
Yes.
And so those guys extending into mobile, so extending their brand into mobile. It's not easy. It's not just taking their brand and putting an app out and labeling it. There's more stuff. And then there's the other side, which is the brand builders, those guys, those basement companies that are trying to create new product, new customers, and a new brand for themselves. Is that what we're seeing out there?
It certainly is, and again, with any kind of technology, and we found this when we were doing branding work for high-tech companies, that a lot of times they would do their branding internally.
Yeah.
Which is never a great idea. It would be a matter of defining, okay, well, who are you selling to, and why are you selling it, and who's going to buy it? And I found, working in the app world is not different than working in that world, because it would be a lot of times these brilliant technologists starting up a company that made this certain piece of optical network hardware, and yeah, it would be great within their own community, but once you sit down and you say, okay, well, who's going to buy it? Well, I don't know, but look, it's really cool. Well, yeah, I'm not debating it's cool factor. What I'm wondering is who's going to buy it and how much are they willing to pay for it. Now, in the app world, the benchmark has been sort of set at the 99-cent rate for the most part, and and there's variances within there depending on availability and functionality. Sorry, but you really do have to say, okay, yeah, that's really fun what that does, but are people going to buy it? And what's the revenue behind it? I mean, it really is a business at the end of the day. And one of the business models is in the sales of your app, so volume, basically. How many people will buy this? The other is running ads in your app. Mm-hmm. So like any business, it's not a matter of coming up with something cool. It's a matter of assessing its viability and, okay, what's the model behind it? Is this going to generate a lot of traffic, so I sell it for free, but I sell advertising on it? Or is this something that's a necessary item? Is it something that adds functionality that I can charge for and then build it based on that? But what you do have is a lot of coders who are, again, very brilliant at what they do, and they can make these phones do incredible things. And then they just throw it out there. And the example I use is working, again, for a winery, for example. Well, it takes them 5 years to build their, to get their vines mature, to put all the things in place, the equipment and all this, millions and millions of dollars, to, at the end of the day, once they're ready to put it in the stores, slap a label on it. Yeah. It's spent too much passion, too much time, too much blood, sweat, and tears and money just to do that and throw a label on it. Well, it's the same with an app. You spend hours and hours, and I imagine, late hours and lots of Red Bull and to get this thing together, to just throw a screen grab as a button. Yeah.
And sometimes a blurry one, right?
Exactly.
Because I want to talk about that. We're gonna come back to that, because branding is so important around not just the app, but around what you're doing to promote that app as well. And you touched on it there. But what goes into the making of a successful brand? Like, I see this marketing guys, for example, they say, or companies. I ran a company, and my marketing group would always come to me and say, we need to build a viral video. And I said, well, there is no such thing as a viral video until it goes viral, right?
Exactly.
So the same thing around brand. Everybody says, wow, we need to build a brand. I'm building a brand. And it becomes hollow because, I look around and I kind of see 5 brands, Apple, Sony. If you watch American Idol, it's like the Coke show, right?
Yes.
But Coke is a brand.
Yeah. So
how do you build a good brand?
Well, in those examples that you gave me, the key to those is frequency. And that will even enable a bad brand to succeed because it becomes so quickly recognized because you're constantly being reminded of it. McDonald's is an example of that. It's not a good brand.
But it's a great brand.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's from a technical point of view, if we were to assess it aesthetically and break it down as design, it's weak.
Yeah.
That said, it's successful because of its frequency, and that's something that's important, and that's something that's I'm not going to say easy, but it's easier these days to do. Again, with Twitter and Facebook and all these social media avenues that you can really build something quickly if you get the right traction. If timing can be a big factor in that. But for brands, particularly in these day and age when we're again bombarded by so much information, when you can create a space that gives information, but it's somewhat calm, it's somewhat simple. And again, I go back to the Apple example. Look at their website, look at their marketing, look at their packaging. Lots of white space. It's very simple. People need that visual break because we're being inundated so much that when they look at a brand like that, it's a pause. It's thank God. I'm going to stop and I'm going to read this. It's like having that nice cup of tea or coffee with your paper, right? You're like, okay, this is me time. So yeah, engage me. And Apple's very good, like with their website, for example, that now there's some movie trailers there.
Yeah.
They're not making anything off of that, but it's keeping you at their site. So their numbers are crazy.
And showcases their QuickTime in a kind of soft sell.
See, exactly. You don't have to go into technical stuff. It's like, oh, I'm using QuickTime. Oh, yeah. Cool. Okay. So it's suddenly, again, you're implanting that brand. So QuickTime is a brand. You're implanting that into people through other means, almost like the back door.
But it's even like they extend it even through the Apple stores, right? It's that same feeling that you walk into the Apple store and you understand that it's different, that it's yes. branded that way, specifically that way. Right?
And that's important too, because people, what tends to happen is that they get a great product and they'll say, okay, I need to work with the printer to do my packaging, and then I need to get this web company in to do the website, and then I need a graphic designer to do my business cards, and then and they bring this sort of potpourri or buffet of skills together, and you end up with a mess, really. So
like a Radio Shack.
Yeah, exactly, right. That's it. And you really need that one group or person that's spearheading that to say, okay, are we saying the same thing? And what people don't realize, they affiliate or associate the word brand with logo. And the thing is, a logo is part of a brand, but not the brand.
Is that the biggest misconception?
Absolutely. Starbucks, really, if you ask anybody, that's a great brand. Yeah. Starbucks is a great brand. Look at the logo. Not a great logo. And really, people aren't recognizing Starbucks for the logo.
Yeah.
They're recognizing it for the application of the logo. So it's the cup design. It's the little green stopper they put in the top.
Yep.
It's the brand experience. And again, people forget things like writing, like the tone of the writing. That's part of the brand. How are you talking to people? Is it third person? Is it first person? Is it conversational? Is it technical? All of these things set the stage.
Doesn't it even, it even dives into that they call them, they're not coffee slingers, they're baristas, and everybody gets a, you know, a share, you know, a stock option plan when you walk. I mean, is that part of the brand?
Absolutely. I mean, you could go to a Walmart. You don't look for a salesperson, you look for an associate.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it
Yeah.
empowers, yeah, it empowers the people too. And that's the thing, is they are your ambassadors of the brand. And if they feel somehow empowered, I'm not just a sales clerk, I'm an associate. That makes them feel better about their job. Exactly. You know, and you go to the store and you see a greeter.
Yes.
You know, that's their job. Hi, here's your shopping cart. Do you have the flyer? You know, it's all part. That's brand.
So how has this? How do you translate that? Because I mean, companies have built their brands, right? So these guys that we're talking about, Starbucks, in and out, they've built their brand. The tone of their emails, the tone of the chalkboard, the names of the drinks, the names of the employees, the way that they actually lay out their stores, you know, the colors, everything like that. That's their brand. So how does somebody take that? And well, let's talk about NightAlly here, because how did you take that same concept and bring that into the app world? I mean, what did you do with NightAlly that really is like? We'll put up a screen capture, and if you go there, you know, go to nightallyApp.com and you'll see. But what we're talking about is evoking emotion, and how did you take that big world brand and bring it down into an app?
Well, you break it down. So essentially, it started with the idea. We want to build an app that people can have on their phone, that if they are in fear of being attacked or something's not right, that they can simply shake the phone and the alarm will go off and it'll distract and diffuse the situation. And anybody who has taken self-defense knows that the first step to self-defense is to diffuse the situation, not have to use it.
Yep.
So we started with, all right, this is what we want it to do. Now we need to articulate that in the brand, in the messaging, and in the functionality. So how is it different than other ones? Well, in other ones, you actually have to look at your phone and push a button. With this one, we use the shake technology, so you never take your eyes off the situation.
So it's more like oncoming attacker.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
You stop.
Swipe. Launch. Okay. Now. Right? Is that what?
That's right. Exactly. You
Okay.
know, and so this one you just shake it. So we took all these things into mind, and then so the name was first. Okay, we need to have something that could articulate what it's about.
So did you name it before you built it?
No, once we came up with the idea, then we
Yeah.
came up with the name.
Yeah,
So
but before a line of code was built,
Yes.
you're building the brand at that moment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we called it NightAlly because, again, most of the time it would be at night, these situations, and the idea of having an ally with you,
Yep.
having somebody support. So that was important. So
It's comforting.
Yeah, exactly. And we went through quite a few names, but this one seemed the best.
Do you have an
It's to the
example?
point,
Sorry, do
simple.
you have an example of one that you?
I can't off the top of my head.
Okay.
Can't remember. I know we did go through quite a few, and again, NightAlly. You want to look for a name that's memorable and it's quick.
Yeah.
It's not too complicated. So NightAlly, you get it, and it's simple to say, and it's quick. So we came up with that. Then the next thing was to create the brand around it. And with an app, it's about the button, and particularly because this is a safety device, you want to be able to find it quickly on your phone.
Yeah.
The other was that the usability. So when you get to the user interface and that it's simple and straightforward. Again, it's a safety thing. It's
Yep.
not a complicated game. So that was part of the brand. Color. So because this is safety, it's kind of a panic thing. Red needed to be used. So we designed the button to be red. We then took the letter A in Ally and we created a whistle out of it. So the icon for NightAlly is a whistle, which we associate with something going on, right? So all of this came together to a very simple button on your phone, which is a red button with a white whistle on it. And that is constantly reinforced. With the website, we created scenes that people would see quickly and associate, oh yes, I've been there. A dark bus stop where you're by yourself, underground parking lot, a forest or park at night.
Yeah.
So we use these scenes with the words, you are here, and then a shot of the phone. Your ally is here. So again, very simple, very straightforward, to the point, which is the point of the app, that it is very straightforward, to the point. That's how this all came about.
So again, to this point, you haven't even really laid a line of code. Right? This is all in the formative stage. So,
yes.
Whereas an engineering company would look at this and say, okay, let's build it, and then let's work backwards from building it. This is more like you're setting a tone here, aren't you, for the app?
And that's important right now because, again, there are so many apps out there. If it was 3 years ago, it would have been a different process.
Yeah.
But now it's really important to spend that time at the beginning and really create something that's memorable that people will see and okay, I want to pick that up.
And then, so you showed it to me when we met. Actually, you showed it to me you basically walk through the brand first before you describe the product to me, which I thought was a very unique approach. And because by the end of that presentation, you've got that feeling that says, yeah, okay, it makes absolute sense. And not only that, it's stuck in my head, right? The picture on the website, if you haven't, as I said, myallyapps.com, if you go there, you're going to find stark imagery, right? And so it evokes that emotion, as you said. So at this point, you've got a PowerPoint, or you've got a number of images, and you've got the logo, and you've got the icon built, and you've got the look and feel of all the screens, and at that point, that's when you start taking it to the development team to actually start to implement.
That's right, and it started with a wish list of functionality.
Okay.
As well as a strategy, a launch strategy, because I know with something like this can be a very deep build.
Yep.
Lots of functions, lots of things, and that can be paralysis for any kind of project.
Complexity, right? Lots of complexity.
And you start going, this is going to take too long. Particularly if you're building this yourself. If you're, this is self-financed. This, you do it when you've got time. So the strategy with this was, okay, let's do a light version. Let's get it out there. And then we'll build version 2, but let's get some buzz going. So we broke down the wish list of functionality into 2 phases, the launch light version and then the 2.0 version. Then I sat down with my coder and said, okay, here's what I want it to do. Is this feasible? Are there better things that we can do? Are there things that I'm forgetting that we can add? And really that's the sweet spot when you have that good concept, great strategy, good brand with the technology and the know-how and the ability on that side. So it's not the technology side saying, just make it blue and get it out there. And it's not the design side saying, wait, it doesn't look beautiful yet. Everybody at the table brings something, and that's the sweet spot, and that's what we were able to create. And so we sat down and said, okay, here's what we need to do. And it was built very quickly, worked right out of the can. There was there were no bugs, no problems. During that time period as well, I visited a number of malls and looked at the various booth kiosks that had selling phones, and noticed, again, a lot of parents there with their teenage kids, a lot of teenage kids there, looking for the new phones, upgrading, and looking at that saying, there's the point of contact. Like if I'm a parent, which I am, and I'm buying a phone, and somebody says, oh, for 99 cents, we can throw this security app on for you. It's a no-brainer.
So talk about that, because it's one thing to build an app and then just throw it up, as we talked about. It's basically throwing it into an ocean,
Yes.
a grain of salt or into an ocean, and saying, okay, at some point somebody's going to pick it up. It'll end up on my table. It's on my French fries at some point. Now the question is, how? So you build all this brand up, and then you have to figure out how you're going to sell it, right?
Yeah.
So is that part of the brand as well? So positioning it in the right way to the parent
Absolutely.
or to whoever your target customer is?
Absolutely. What's the challenge, but also the opportunity, which as business people we look for. The challenge and the opportunity with Ally was that I had to become an Apple developer to create this, to be in the Apple Store and that. So I went through that process. And part of that process is fitting your app into the little pigeonhole category that it would fit in, and there isn't a security or a personal safety or anything like that. So I had to fit NightAlly under lifestyle.
Yeah.
And in going through lifestyle category, I don't think we fit in there, but there isn't any. So the challenge is defining that, creating that need, or articulating that need where there isn't. It's the road less traveled.
Yeah.
And so that's the challenge, but also the opportunity, because if you do it right, then you are the category, and everybody else are followers.
So that's where you came up with a personal safety app, PSA.
Exactly. We created that PSA. We wanted something that was easy to remember, but also define the category well. Personal safety app, and it's all encompassing. We have other versions of NightAlly that we want to create that would fit under that. And again, we're very collaborative and open, so certainly populating that category would be great.
So you talk about that. I mean, what went into the decision or into that process? Like personal safety app, it just seems like that rolls off your tongue. The parent buying the phone for their teenager at a kiosk or in a store would be coerced by the salesperson saying, "Listen, you know what? Look, have you heard of this category called personal safety apps? And can I take you can I show you this list of things that you might be interested in for your child?"
Yes,
that's in the back of your mind when you're building this.
Absolutely, and that's the thing is because it's the road less traveled, you do have to cut the path.
Yeah,
and the best way to do that is to make it easy for people. If you simply just walk through the path and leave the stumps and the sticks and everything in the way, well, not many people are going to follow you. But if you clear the path, they're going to take it.
How much effort is that? How much effort is that, though, to be able to do that?
It is a lot of effort. It is. Now, that said, something like this makes it easier because it is something people need.
Yeah.
It is something that people will want to put on. So if you are a store owner and you're selling the phone and you just say, "Oh, would you like a personal safety app on this?" Question answered at that point. Really,
exactly.
Don't go any deeper into it or explain or anything. Like, personal safety app, I don't know what you're talking about, but it sounds like something I need.
Yeah.
And then that's the whole thing about branding and communications these days is conversation. You need to start the conversation because people are busy. So if you just float up, do you want a personal safety app? You've stopped them, and they're going to ask.
Yeah.
Because safety, an app, oh, okay, it's not a game.
And
okay.
By the way, if you're talking about a child, your immediate answer is always going to be yes. I'm interested in listening to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does it tag them or tattoo them or give them a transceiver? Because that's even more interesting to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I give them can I remind them not to go into that party? That's even better, right?
Yes, exactly.
And that's not what NightAlly does. So
nope.
Just saying, yeah.
No,
not
this
yet.
is just not yet. It's for the safety and so that's again. So all of this strategy, as well, the price. So the first version, this light version, is 99 cents. So again, when faced with the question, do you want a personal safety app, and it's 99 cents, absolutely.
Yeah.
As functionality adds, we will have a more expensive version, but really not that expensive. At the end of the day, yes, this is a business. I want to make money. There's no question there.
Yep.
However, I would rather see this everywhere and make less per unit than make it somewhat elitist.
Yeah.
I want this to be for everybody, and if I can, cheaper than some of the games out there, right?
Yeah, but as long as certainly this is a volume company. Now, what about other opportunities around this? So you talk about a brand as it doesn't stop with NightAlly, right?
No.
It doesn't stop with the whistle icon. It doesn't stop with the website evoking that emotion on us. I mean, you're talking about. You mentioned earlier about additional applications, additional pieces around this brand. Is that? I don't know if you're ready to talk about those, but is that what a good brand is? Is that it's not just a one-off, close it down, finish it off. You want to build everything underneath this brand?
Absolutely, and particularly in this case where it's self-financed. I'm building this with the help of my staff at Green Melon and associates, you really want to make sure, okay, this is viable. There's a need, there is a market for it, and that this company is scalable.
Yeah.
Whenever you develop something like this, a company, whether it's a product-based company or a service-based company, you always have, and your lawyer will ask you this as well, you always have what's your exit strategy? What are you going to do? Where is this going to go? Are you always going to own it? Are you going to sell it? And things like that. Yeah. So really the intent with this was to bring it to a certain point, and then if somebody's interested in purchasing it, great. If we continue on, great. I'm not locked down to any of that. So the idea of it being scalable is really important because from a business point of view, I need to be able to expand and grow. Right. And whether it's me doing it or selling it and somebody else doing it, they need to see the value in that. So it was important that NightAlly be scalable. And as well, when you talk, when we came up with the name Ally, it was with the idea that we could tack on other things to the word ally, and that actually the incorporated company that I've created is My Ally,
right?
Inc. So again, you're personifying the brand. This is My Ally, and we can add in. So the first one is NightAlly, so it's about night safety, and the next one might be Road Ally, and it's about car safety.
I see.
So again, you can keep expanding, and you really need that in a business model. Okay, you will saturate your market eventually. So your only way of expansion is diversification or improvement of the existing product. But really, you'll hit the ceiling. There's only so much you can do with that one app.
I think that's such an important concept or statement or thought, is that when you're building your product, like, it's one thing to call your product Doodle Bop or Doodle Jump. Don't call your company Doodle Jump unless and I see this a lot with some of the companies that I've interviewed, where their company name is something completely different, and the product, they always are very clear. They say, look, our first product under that company name is this. And one of the companies that I just finished an interview with was the company that does a product called Postagram, which is, and they talk about this really clearly, the same way as you do, Robert, which is, look, we've been playing with technology about taking digital photos to print for a long time. And then Instagram came out, and Instagram has 3 million users, and we decided, hey, listen, we're going to leverage those 3 million users, hug off of their brand with Postagram, but it's the first product in a series of products under the banner company called Sincerely, and we want to be the hallmark for digital printing.
Nice, yeah.
Brilliant, right? Good branding, branding, right?
Yes. But they've thought about the name of their company as well as the subsequent products. So again, it's scalable.
Yeah.
But if any one of the sub-brands tanks, they can cut that limb off and it doesn't hurt the core.
Or they can sell it. Right?
Exactly.
See, yep. It's so interesting. So, companies are how many companies are called something app, right?
Yes.
It's limited lifespan, isn't it?
Yes.
It's like calling yourself, something web, right?
Yes.
So, a lot of it, so really when you dole out advice on branding, you got to say, well, listen, if you're in it for the long haul, you've got to start thinking about that it's not web or it's not app. It's got to be something bigger than that will withstand transition in the marketplace.
Absolutely, and we see how quickly things can change. With Twitter and YouTube and we were talking earlier about we need a viral video. Well, it's only viral if it's viral. You don't create it that way, right? So things change very quickly, and that's why it's not My Ally app incorporated or anything. It's contained. But when you talk about scalability and Angry Birds, for example, I mean you can now get stuffed animals. You can now get T-shirts and
But I got a question around that. Is that so what? At some point the Angry Birds franchise is done, right? And Angry Birds Inc. just raised $40-something million, but it's one brand. So they're going to do like Angry Birds Rio, Angry Birds Halloween, Easter, Valentine's Day. how Angry Birds plush toys that are generating more than $1 million a year, and Angry Birds board game, and Angry Birds this and that. But what happens when that brand expires?
Well, that's it. What are you left with?
Yeah.
Right. So you really need to leverage that. And what you do at that point is you leverage your reputation, your name, and you lend it to new things that are coming out that are being developed by other people. Just like your
the Sincerely guys?
Yeah, exactly. Like they're just saying, okay, we've got this ability. Why reinvent the wheel? Let's take a product and let's improve on it. Let's add to it. And I'm sure the Instagram people are like, yeah, absolutely.
Whatever. I mean, well, that's why they open up their API, right?
Yeah, and I guess at some point I would see one of them buying the other one out.
Yeah.
We're all one happy family. Taking pictures, but I think that's exactly right. Like, where do you go with your brand? And it's interesting to me that something like Angry Birds, like they generate 40 million. You said
in venture.
In venture, that's crazy. And it's just this game, the slingshot game, which is interesting to me. So I think certainly again we look at brand, and they obviously understood. Timing certainly was there. But look at the brand, look at the character designs, look at the colors, look at the palette. Yeah. They've done it well. It's simple, it's easy to see, it's easy to read.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm not gonna be wearing an Angry Birds shirt ever. And I say that you're probably gonna bump into me on the street and I'm gonna be wearing my Angry Birds shirt. But in 2 years, in a year, I'm not gonna give a crap about Angry Birds. I don't think anybody is.
That's it.
So, it's not a long. That's an opportunistic brand, I would say.
It is. It absolutely is. And again, what you're going to see happen is they develop to a point now where, and I'd be interested in. You said they're building, Angry Bird Rio and things like that. Again, that's they're going to hit the end of that pretty soon. And what's likely happening is that their funding has allowed for them to build a staff that's dealing with the now.
Yeah. And
they themselves are working on the
what's next. Interesting. So let me ask you this, Robert. Do you have any kind of key branding tips that you could divulge for app makers who are going through that stage? Most of the people that are building apps come from the engineering side. I've seen a lot of guys. I just interviewed. I just posted an interview with Matthew Rosenberg from Fast Society, and he's a brand first guy. He said, look, I know who my customer is. I'm selling the brand. The technology and the engineering doesn't matter as much as the feeling and the personality of the brand, and we want to be this. And not only that, the app isn't for my parents. It's for guys like me.
Yes.
Right? And he says he's not a technology company, he's a media company, and technology comes second. It's like MTV, right?
Yes.
So what advice would you have for people who are struggling with this brand thing that haven't gone through that process? They're midway through a product. Do you have any tips for branding for app makers?
There's certainly, understanding your market is important, but I would even go further back than that and really ensure that what you've got is something that is needed and it's something that can go forward. But before you go, an all-encompassing approach, and it doesn't matter if it's a technology audience or a personal audience or a corporation or whatever, keep it simple. Keep it easy, memorable. We see lots of brands that have become popular because the name was right. Okay, Kijiji, and Facebook, like
Amazon. Yeah.
Amazon, and there's that scene in The Social Network where Justin Timberlake's character there said, take the out.
Yeah.
Just make it Facebook. Simple.
Yeah.
Right. And so
God, Justin Timberlake, he's so damn smart, eh?
and you don't want to like him, but you do.
Somehow, for some reason, he's like JT. He's the guy who wrote the McDonald's jingle, for Christ's sake. Like that guy, like he's a branding king.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't think he wasn't really him though.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
But keep it simple, and that applies to everything. That applies to the button. Okay, if we talk specifically apps, button design. Keep it simple, easy to recognize.
Well, aside from your app, is there one app that you look at that you say, listen, they've done a great job in building this out?
Yeah, And let me
Yeah, take a look at your...
look. There's one called Lose It, for example, and it's a weight-based app, and it's simply a scale, and you see it quickly, and you get it quickly. Some of them, like the Facebook one, is nice and simple, obviously, because they're leveraging the recognizable F, so you don't need anything else.
Yeah.
When you look at games like Bejeweled, for example, again, you get that simple, it's quick. There's the jewel there, and number 2, and that's it. You're good to go. But there's other ones that are just so complicated, like Jet Car Stunts. I'm sorry if I'm slagging anybody's brand, but Jet Car Stunts is a fun game. But the button is impossible to read.
Yeah.
You have no idea. It's a mess.
Yeah.
So really need to simplify that. Twitter, it's got their bird on it, and it's blue, and there you go. I like the Instagram when you brought them up, because the button's reminiscent of the type of camera that you imagine these pictures being taken with.
I'm just going through, I love, I'm a big fan of Tweetbot. I'm going to put it up there. If you can see it, it's up on the top row there, and to me that, it is one of those things that just that sticks out very clearly to me, but really there aren't very many. I mean, if you recognize the brand is what you're gonna go towards, like MLB. But for new guys, it's so important. Like what you did with NightAlly is to make it memorable and fast to find ultimately. What about app itself? Is there when you talk about branding, is there anything that people should be doing inside the app that so make it easy, make it functional? But when it comes to really evoking emotion, how does somebody do that?
Well, again, be very honest to the product.
Yeah.
And let what the product does answer your questions as you go through the process. People overcomplicate the process, and they don't really have to. If you're, I hate to be selling more Angry Birds to people, but if you're looking at that, for example, who's your audience? What's a younger audience, somewhat? It's cartoon based.
Yeah.
It's what are your answers to building a brand? Well, keep it cartoony, keep it bright, use bright colors, use simple graphics, again, if you drill it down and you're not in front of the computer, use a piece of paper and write down, all right, these are kids, so what are they doing right now? What are they watching? Okay, a lot of what they're doing is very visual. There's lots of action, things going on, colors and things like that. So you write these things down. If you sit in front of the computer to do this, you're going to spend hours and you're going to waste your time. You're going to end up with a solution that you've seen or that you've ripped off because you've been staring at things on the screen. But if you just take a simple piece of paper, away from your monitor, old school it. Even grab one of those yellow pencils with the eraser on the end.
It makes sense because ultimately you're constrained by your tools, right? So your imagination may run wild on a piece of paper, but if you can't get it out and put it onto your screen, you're going to be constrained by the tools that you're using, not by your mind.
You're only going to use the thoughts that you uploaded.
Exactly.
Right.
Which it's going to be Arial or Times New Roman, right?
That's a nice comic.
Comic Sans. It's exactly.
Everybody loves that.
If you're building an app with that, stop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting. Branding is definitely a science, let me ask you: are you classifying it as art or a science? Would be branding?
Oh, it's definitely science.
It is a science.
It's not my mother, God bless her, sort of gets what I do for a living, but it's not met without the odd. This is a lovely book that you designed. Where's your name? Where did you sign it? Well, Mom, this isn't fine art.
No, it's not.
This is personal expression.
I love that.
This is communication.
Yeah.
And so you really have to take yourself out of the mixture, which is very hard when dealing with corporations and CEOs that they've built companies that really on their own, abilities and sweat and blood and tears, that they figure when they're building a brand, we hear a lot of, well, I don't like that. I don't like that. And, I'd rather you did this, and my response is always, I apologize for this, but I don't care what you like because you're not the audience. in a lot of cases, people running these companies aren't the people buying the product.
So true.
So you really got to take your personal, I don't like green. Well, you know what? It's an environmental product, and color association is important. So get over the green thing.
Yeah. Start liking it.
Yeah.
And here's your shirt. It's green and you're wearing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But, I mean, it's such good advice. The fact that branding is now kind of encroaching into the app space, into the mobile space, I think is so important. It's funny that the most branded of devices, like the simplest of branding, which is the Apple on the back of the iPhone, it's taken 3 years for companies to come around and start to look at branding as a serious thing in order to be able to make the apps resonate. But at one point, and this is where it really comes in. At one point, building an app and getting an app installed on a device was the most important thing. Mm-hmm. Today, you have a bunch of challenges because it's not only about getting it on to the device, it's about getting that app to the front page.
Yes.
Right? And out of the folders.
Yes.
Right? And in order to do that, you make something that's functional, usable, branded, beautiful, simple, something like that, and that all has to be part of your brand strategy.
Absolutely. And when you start off, obviously, okay, I've got to put in a website, and I'll say from experience, until you promote your website and you start driving traffic to it, 90% of your sales are going to be directly from the app store. Yeah. So don't get too caught up on that, where you're really, and I'm speaking specifically about apps, where you really need to spend your time is where Apple or BlackBerry, whomever is running the app store, are asking you about your category. Describe your app in 6 words. Now tell them the functionality. Now, okay, that landing page is very, very key. Don't take it, take it seriously. Because it'll come when you're signing up, it'll come up on your screen like you're filling out a form for taxes.
Yeah.
And so we get into that mode. It's like, oh, my name is this. It's called this, and it helps people. And you just kind of dumb yourself down. Stop. Think about it, because that's the key. Search engines that are going to use those words that you're using in what you're saying about your app. That's going to drive your traffic.
But it even comes down to the images that you use in iTunes or App World, when you can scroll through and see screenshots. Yes. Like, I've seen companies where I'm interested in the product and I go and there's one screenshot and it's their launch page, right? Or their loading page when the app is loading. Yes. Or I've seen some that are blurry or some that really don't show what the app does. You are murdering your brand at that point.
Absolutely. And again, if we go back to brand and building it, in the app world, for example, it's important for us that this app be very real, and that we truly do care about the people using it, and we truly do want this to help them and to make them safe. So it's like Twitter. You're not always constantly sell, right? You're imparting information, you're building community, and that's part of this brand. So when you download the app is there, the functionality is there. You turn it on and the alarm goes off and all that. But there's also another part to it, that there's a tips section. So if you're not outdoors using it, or you're getting ready to do it on the bus stop or whatever, you can click on the tips section, and it gives you all kinds of ideas about, okay, is it raining outside? Maybe you should consider this. And whenever you're in the public space and you're the only woman and it's all guys around, maybe you should consider this, or just tips. And again, you're partnering with them basically and saying, okay, here's some ideas. And none of that is selling anything. None of that is brand flag waving or anything. It's like, no, you need to know these tips, because a lot of these tips have nothing to do with the usability of the app.
No, they don't. But they enhance it simply.
Exactly, and that's again key to the brand.
I love it. Robert, it seems that this is a topic that will come up many, many, many more times. I'd love to have you back on. We're going to get some feedback from this session, obviously, from the people who are watching and listening today. And at this moment, and if you are watching and listening at this moment still, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And let me know what you think. Would you like some more information about brands? Would you like some more information about how to build a brand in a mobile space? Or what you could be doing in order to be able to, add or, I don't need enhance your brand or begin brand building for your app. And if you haven't thought about it, let me know why, because these are the things that that are going to become more and more important, and we've seen this already.
And it's interesting. It's interesting because of how many apps are out there, and again, how little talk there's been about brands and apps. You know, and I get a lot of trade publications, How Magazine, Communication Arts, Applied Arts, all these, as well as business magazines like Inc. and Entrepreneur and those, Fast Company. And they all talk about, you know, growth businesses and where should you put your money these days. And they're like app. But there hasn't been anything on the successful build of an app company.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of these spring out of development companies and that. And again, brand is not, it's all about the technology and the functionality. And, you know, I'd love to come back and talk about, and we can even take apart certain brands or whatever, and just talk about, okay, what's needed here, and then how do we build it and make it better?
I would love to. You know, I think that's a really great idea. So how do people find more about you? URLs, Twitter?
Yes. So they can check out our website, greenmeloninc.com, GRENMELONINC. So that's the core branding design company. Then there's myallyapps.com for the app, and it's also obviously on iTunes. Ally has a Twitter feed as well as a Facebook page, and we'll soon be building the same for Green Melon.
Great.
So I'm available through either one. There's contact information, email, and that. So absolutely.
It's awesome. You know, I can't thank you enough, Robert, for doing this. Because I know that this is something that you feel very passionately about, and definitely going to have you back on to talk about. I think it would be fun to kind of take 3 or 4 apps and decipher them, good, bad, or indifferent when it comes to the brand side. So, love to have you back on. And as I said, go to greenmeloninc.com or myallyapps.com to find out some more information about both these things, or just go and buy the app from iTunes and feel protected. And you'll see the fluid nature with which the website dictates the evokes the emotion of the brand, and the app evokes the emotion of the brand, and they both do it in different ways, but it's so appropriate, and you can learn a lot of lessons from what Robert's done with these things. I think that's it.
Hey.
Thank you so much for doing this, Robert. I really appreciate it, and the fact that you're from Ottawa, I love the fact that this is so close. I mean,
Yes.
I'm probably past that building behind you. Turn right a couple, and I can almost see you, which is the greatest thing. And I'm so proud that you're an Ottawa company. So proud that you're in Canada, and so proud that you're doing what you're doing. So again, thank you for being a part of this session. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with your audience, and that it's great to be able to help out and to be able to talk about this.
Well, they love it, right? All you guys out there, love it. Do these things. Start listening. Reach out to Robert. And again, thank you so much. If you're listening to this still, and you're watching this, I love it. Thank you so much. Reach out at untether@gmail.com. And if you've got any comments about this, or if you'd like to see more of Robert, we can formulate something around the way that brand can be incorporated into your apps. But until then, this is another episode of Untether.tv. Finished. Done. Salut. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.